I don't know if many of you remember this post that I posted about the 15th day of the third month and how historical this day seemed to be, and how I was looking at it as a possibility of, of the same day that we would be redeemed on our calendar this year. Uh, Now, I felt really good about that possibility because, again, I remember Sister Sherry specifically saying in one of her shows that that was one of the first things that the Lord told her about understanding the last days events. If you want to know and understand the future, you've got to know the past. And so I was trying to match this past with our future to get that day of our possible day of leaving and being redeemed. Now I was trying to match this on the Enochian Jubilee calendar, and I originally had had a start date of that calendar based on um, a message that Father had told Sister Sherry back in 2015, and it was reported to us on her Monday show um, of September 14th in 2015 that Father had told her that the significant dates that had to be paid attention to were the 15th to the 25th. And so I took that as that possible matching up with the Gregorian calendar of dates of Rosh Hashanah and of the Day of Atonement. And that's what I went for a start date. I have since, because this third month and the 15th day of it has bypassed us going forward on the Enoch Jubilee calendar from that start date, um, just bypassed us this last week. I've since looked at this again, and I found another way to look at this that shows us a start date to go from. And I seem to like this manner of finding a start date a little bit better. So I want to share this with you and see what you folks think. And so reminding ourselves about the Enoch Jubilee calendar and how this whole calendar of God's is set up, it was derived with 30, 30 plus 31 day periods totaling 91 days in each season. These 4 periods of 91 days thus add up to a 364-day calendar. And this calendar and the number of days was not to change from the beginning of it being presented to eternity. These instructions were given to Moses on top of Mount Sinai. And these instructions actually included specifics on how to figure out the last day of the year on the Enoch calendar. Now, these instructions were originally given to Enoch on one side of the flood and then re-given to Moses on the other side of the flood. These instructions were specifically found in the book of Enoch, chapter 72, verse 32 and 33, that said, on that day the night decreases and amounts to 9 parts, and the day to 9 parts, and the night is equal to the day, and the year is exactly as to its days 364. So with this information in mind, we can then take the last day of the year, finding that out, and then find the first day of the year by finding the equal amount of sunlight and daylight during the year on top of Mount Zion. And that's going to be our goal. So I was able to find out the geographic location of Mount Sinai as being 33 degrees east and 28 degrees north, 2 hours east of Greenwich. Now going to the Astronomical Applications Department at the U.S. Naval Observatory site and punching in these coordinates, we find that we have an equal amount of time of both daylight and night time on a certain day of 2 days in March of 15th and the 16th for 2017. And we can then take that date and punch that in the 16th day of March as the first day of the new year, and the 15th, of course, the last day of the old year. And that's what we're going to do next. Continue to follow it on the Enoch Jubilee calendar to find out then what date on the Gregorian calendar does the 15th day of the third month fall on. So I've made a calendar to follow this on. The first column there just shows what day of the week on the Enoch calendar these days would fall on. The second column is actually the day of the Enoch calendar, each day of the Enoch calendar specifically. The third column there is the actual Gregorian calendar date, or equivalent Gregorian calendar date. And believe it or not, each one of those dates does fall on the same day in which the Enoch calendar specifies it is for that day. So in other words, for that first day, it is a Thursday, and so is March 16th. It's a Thursday on the Enoch calendar and a Thursday on the Gregorian calendar. So I've followed this out for 3 months. As you can see, I've broken that down into 3 months. And lo and behold, it ends on this upcoming day today, the 29th day of May. And that's what I wanted to point out to you. And so looking at these many historical events for the 15th day of the third month, we see first that it is the conclusion of the Feast of Weeks, first fruits, on the Enochian calendar. It's also the day in which Father told Abram, "To thy seed will I give this land." That was in the book of Jubilees 14:10, 18, and 20. Also, it was the day in which Abraham celebrated the Feast of First Fruits and circumcised all the men of his house, including himself, was circumcised. That was in the book of Jubilees 15:1 and 24. It was the day in which Isaac was born, and the covenant continued through with Isaac. That was in the book of Jubilees 16:13. It was the day in which Judah was born. That was in the book of Jubilees 28:15 through 16. It was the day in which Jacob celebrated the Feast of First Fruits, in the book of Jubilees 44:4. And it was the day in which the children of Israel came into the wilderness of Sinai, and when God reminds them of how I bare you on eagle wings and brought you unto myself. That's in the book of Exodus 19:1 and 4. So many historical events that I think very nicely coincide with the theme of being first fruits in unto God in Yahushua. So let's pray that it does continue as such, and that possibly that we will be redeemed sometime during this day. or thereabouts. Um, as always, it has been a pleasure doing this study with you. I hope it was understood correctly and that you can go forward with it.